You pick up little things. So don't be afraid to shadow people, ask questions, because there's subtleties to performance. So I kind of wanted to talk today and open the forum to think about, and the platform would be the art of performance. There's the pragmatic things that we know we have to do. You know, every day we got to get up as the sun rises, like they say in Africa. You better be running, or you're going to get eaten. You know, and that's what I love about that idea of the African runner. And it's not about the Africans, but I love how they break it down very simply. And so I've got a lot of fun stories about being with them, about following Moses. When Moses knew me, when I came in there to study the marathon with him, he said, "Philip, the only way I can help you is you follow me. The marathon is always going to be 42 kilometers, and it's going to be very difficult, but you must follow me." And so when I got to Kenya, I was living in New York City, running in Ben Cortlandt Park and a lot of the places that you may have heard about, but I'd never trained at high altitude. And went up there, and it's 7,000 to 9,000 feet, and we did a test run where a great runner is from, let's see, who was the 70s that broke all the records that Salazar used to race against. Henry. So it's where Henry Rono is from. And it's in the tea fields in Kapsabet. And we were running a rolling course, and usually the Africans will start out slowly, warm up, and get going. So we're running along. And then at the end of the run, we took blood lactate to see where we were in our acidosis. It's a process we do to check how we're training, if we're not overtraining or undertraining. So we checked the blood lactate, and I was the same blood lactate as Moses Tanui, but he ran the course 8 minutes faster than me. And so I thought, well, I shouldn't be here. There's no way. I'm just not good enough. I can't be here. And then the coaches encouraged me, just stay with it. Let's see. By the end of the training cycle in the four months, I was only 30 to 40 seconds behind. And this particular run I'm talking about, they had assembled 45 to 50 of the best marathoners ever assembled on one workout, on one run. And the slowest person there was me at 2:23. And the median time was 2:10. So there was 2:05, you know, at that time, which was the world record. So at that time it was the best, all the way up to 2:10. And then I was sort of the wild card way back there. But you learn a lot. Remember, the last can be first. So those of you that are just starting running, don't be intimidated. This is high altitude, so go slow. This is a camp about learning. Jay and the coaching staff have a lot to teach. So ears and eyes open, and let's learn. I'd like to open it up to questions. Any questions? The best, training with the best, what do they do? Please.
Do you go to the Olympics every year?
I don't. My first Olympics were 92. I started working with athletes when I was even in college. So I started about 1989 working with athletes, and my first Olympics was 92. I've been to 2 Olympics. My first Olympics was my most memorable because Barcelona, beautiful Olympics. Where I was supposed to stay, it's a funny story, it was 60 kilometers outside of town, and I was working with so many athletes at the time. We had 33 athletes that had made the team that my father and I were working with, and 11 of those athletes medaled. So if we'd have been a country, we'd have been like top 10 just doing our therapy. So it was really cool for me as a young therapist to be getting those kind of results. These are athletes that we had trained with, lived with, that were all coming through the training center. We were in Gainesville, Florida. And so I couldn't be at the hotel because it was too far outside of town. I needed to be closer to the Olympic Training Center. I couldn't stay at the Olympic Village because I wasn't an athlete. So I slept on my massage table on the beach in Barcelona, and every morning I ran up the mountain where the Olympic Marathon went Montjuic, and I came down and showered right there and went into the Olympic Village, worked all day, and so it was a really exciting time for me. It was a lot of fun. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah, please.
Do the best of the best, or sort of runner group, do they have a particular diet or set of foods that they tend to move towards?
Great question. Great question. You know, one of the things that I've noticed and observed from being around the best athletes is they tend to understand simple palate. I call it simple palate, or simple foods. Simple foods that are more fresh and natural. Some of them all don't have the opportunity to get organic, but they like to eat as local as possible. They've understood for a long time the idea of thinking of food as fuel instead of, so for instance, Paul Tergat's a good example. Paul Tergat would eat exactly what he needed. And when he was in off-season, and Paul Tergat, just to preface this, was the world record holder in the 10 kilometers and then the marathon. And he was one of the best cross-country runners ever. He won, correct me, 8 world cross-country championships, I think, somewhere in there. But amazing runner. And Paul used to tell me, he said, you know, Philip, I eat what I need. I take what I need. And so he really had his portions down where he got enough of the protein and the carbohydrate and the greens, and he tried to get the freshest food possible. Then he was on break. He'd say, I'm eating now for pleasure. So now I get to eat everything I want because I'm on the off season. So he really knew how to dial in that food. But to boil it down to, I feel that seasonal and regional foods, there's a lot of research out there. You know, if you can think of that on that context of, I want to get the freshest food possible, I want to get it into my system as quick as possible. There's that, what you've heard a lot, and Jay will probably talk about that, or nutritionists that talk here, that glycolytic window where you've got to fuel within 10 to 15 minutes, and having your water bottles with you, and having your protein drink, and all those things. Those little things become big, especially when you're in a little bit more of an advanced responsibility of your body working in a hypoxic condition of altitude. Okay? So fueling is big. You know, some people have seen Anthony or Familetti's movie where he's putting in junk food, okay? 2 years later, Anthony comes and says, Phil, man, I really messed up. He's like, I'm out. All his blood values were bad. Then we started seeing him at Whole Foods, this place in Flagstaff called New Frontiers. He started to realize, I've got to fuel better because I'm breaking down. So, you know, it's really important to think about that, and you'll feel the difference. When the food is fresher, you'll feel it right away. So you can't get enough greens. They're high in chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is only one chemical compound away from hemoglobin in blood. So we get a lot of fresh greens. That's what I noticed from the Africans is when they would come out of Kenya, we brought them to a training camp in New Paltz, New York, when I was associated with the Fila group. And it was the #1 group in the world. It was in the mid-90s. They dominated every major race in the world. They would put 3 people, men and women, on the podium almost every time in major marathons and major races. And when the athletes would come down from altitude, at first we thought, oh, maybe they're losing their altitude effect. What we started to study and realize is they stopped eating their natural food. Because when I was in Africa, I mean, it would be a fresh slaughter. I mean, I don't usually eat meat, but when you ate that meat, how fresh was that? So you're getting that meat right away. You're getting that fresh chapati bread. It was right there in the oven, in the natural ovens, and you're getting natural honey, black honey, right out of the comb, and you know, and the greens are right from the garden, the passion fruits right from the vine, and you know, you felt fantastic. I'm seeing that now in our organic garden in Pennsylvania, where we call it the 50-meter diet. We, you know, probably 70% of our food comes from within 50 meters of our house. So, you know, you pick it and you eat it. So that opportunity is not always there. But as close as you can get to fresh, natural food, you'll feel a difference. Eliminate the chemicals. Read the labels. It's amazing what kind of junk that, you know, big pharma and big business puts in these. And educate yourselves. Go out and see the movie Food Inc., new movie coming out, Food Chain. You'll be amazed at what's out there and how we can dial into the right foods. In any town you're in, there's a farmer's market. Get your parents to investigate that, but you'll feel better. Questions?
How long their Western career and Moses food?
Okay, good question.
What's their pace, too?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. That film you just saw, I've been asked to be involved. My friend Michael is a wonderful guy. He studied philosophy and religion in college. He's just a year out of college, University of Toronto. He would like to study 5 or 6 athletes, and Wesley's one of them that he wants to study and follow for a time and document. That particular run was about a month and a half ago. It was where Wesley trains in Canada. He goes back and forth between Canada, where his wife's from, and Kenya. But that was a 22-mile run. It was the average pace was 5:18. You saw him well into it there. Usually athletes at that level, the best in the world marathoners that I've